Welcome to the Love Systems Podcast, where we talk about everything from lifestyle to fitness to game. We bring you the best instructors with the best tidbits and information on a regular basis so that you can improve your life and ultimately get the girl of your dreams.
Love, love, love systems. Love, 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 love systems. Love, love. Love systems, love, 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 love systems.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Love Systems Podcast. I'm hosting today with Jasper, and of course, I'm Hootie. Jasper, how's it going?
Good, man. How are you?
Pretty good. Jasper just got back into the States on Sunday, and he's in Las Vegas right now. By the time this airs, Rockstar may well be in the middle of it, or maybe over, but right now we're about to kick it off this Sunday, and I'm really excited. I go down to Vegas myself tomorrow, which will be really cool. But enough about that. Today we have an incredible guest, an amazing guest from across the pond, and I'm really excited to have her. Probably know who she is. Her name is Kezia Noble. For those of you guys who are unfamiliar, Kezia has built a huge and amazing dating company with her name, of course, Kezia Noble. She has a YouTube channel with over 200,000 subscribers. She's the author of the best-selling book, The Noble Art of Seducing Women. And she's also an avid writer for the Huffington Post. She's written some really cool articles, some of which that I really like, such as Should You Take Her for a Romantic Dinner, The Truth About Pickup Artists, and Why Women Love Bad Guys. So, without further ado, I'd like to welcome Kezia to the show. Kezia, how's it going?
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yo, thank you so much for joining. We're really excited to have you. How's it going in the UK right now?
Believe it or not, it's not raining and I'm not drinking a cup of tea.
You're not drinking a cup of tea? That doesn't make any sense.
I drink coffee.
You just blew my mind. That's amazing. Okay, well, cool. So, Kez is on the show today, and we're super stoked. And what we are all here to chat about, it's kind of twofold, but really we're going to get into the nitty-gritty about two kind of tangentially related issues. We're going to talk about what does it mean to be a cool guy. Oftentimes, if you let's say you're starting to date a girl, you kind of rewind and like, okay, well, what was it that drew you in, or what made you want to kind of hang out with me? Just like, oh, I just thought you were a really cool guy, or I just think the guy's such a cool guy, or whatever, right? And it can be a vague thing often that women will say, and so we want to talk about it and parse it and say, what does that exactly mean when somebody tells you that, or somebody says like, that guy's cool? Before we get into that, Kezia, just for people who are just getting to hear about you for the first time or want to know a little bit more about you, tell us about your background, what you did prior to working in this industry, and then eventually how you got into it.
Sure. Okay, so I've been showing men how to attract women since 2006. I was approached when I was in a bar by a pickup artist, and that was in the height of like the pickup artist community days. You know, the game had just come out, etc., etc. And I was minding my own business, and a guy came up to me and he told me he was a pickup artist, and I didn't even know what that was. And then he explained it to me. He said, look, I help guys increase their chances with women, and I teach them skills, and I teach them techniques. And in fact, I run a company, and we're holding something called a boot camp this weekend. And I immediately was a complete and utter skeptic, as is most people who don't really understand the pickup artist community or are not familiar with it. And I told him, look, under no circumstances can you teach someone how to get a woman. Chemistry's there or it's not. And that's it. That's the bottom line. It shows how ignorant I was in those days. And he's like, okay, fine. Why don't you come down to the boot camp? Because we need some, females to give some feedback to our students. And then you can judge for yourself whether this stuff really works or not. So I went down there that weekend back in 2006, and there was two things I noticed. The first thing I noticed is that there were indeed skills and techniques and systems that really helped guys achieve real tangible results with women. The second thing I noticed was that there was no real honest female advice in that community. The other girls that were there were giving this kind of very nice, vague wishy-washy advice. They were saying to the guys, just be yourself, smile more, be more confident. And I thought, you know something, these guys have not paid good money to hear that shit. So I decided to be my honest and direct self, which has got me into trouble a lot of times in the past. And I told them what I thought they were doing wrong and how they could improve. And I literally got my coat and I was leaving the nightclub, the venue where the boot camp was being held, thinking no one's going to want to see me again. And actually, there was a queue of guys stopping me, telling me that they wanted to book me for one-on-one sessions. And that they've been searching for this honest insight into the female mind, this direct, no bullshit advice for years and years, because they were sick of like their female friends just giving them this vague advice. They were sick of listening to advice in, magazines by, aging old female dating coaches and just like bimbos basically. And so from there, my skills and my techniques became a lot more detailed. I prefer to teach micro game to guys, conversation skills, how to transition, how to sexually escalate. I'm more about that than inner game. I can teach inner game, but I believe that your actions actually shape your beliefs. I come from that school of thought. You change your actions. If you build positive reference points, you will become more confident rather than the other way around. Some people disagree with that, but I look at the results I get from my clients. So that's what matters to me. And from there, I got a published book, as you said, and I run my own company, my own boot camps now with a team of 20 to 25 people, other trainers, and I've got boot camps in LA, and I have boot camps in London and in Europe.
Excellent. And it's very true, of course. Beliefs will shape actions, but it goes the other way around. And I think what's important, I want to point this out. I said this before. We just had Kong on not too long ago from Simple Pickup. And what I really want to emphasize is the reason why we began this podcast and this exchange of information is you'll see that there's a lot of good look at where all these experts, where everybody's talking, where a lot of the information and the advice overlaps. Because I think that's a good indication of what is the really good stuff. And I was actually just talking about this to my friend the other day. Actually, we were just playing tennis yesterday, my friend Katie, and we were chatting about where this disconnect exists a lot of times when guys are talking to their girlfriends or other girls to get advice, and why it's often warped. And that's what I really like about Kezia is she's great at really understanding exactly how to give correct advice and how to cut through the BS, because sometimes it's not intentional, but a lot of times, unbeknownst to women, when they're trying to advise their guy friends, they're giving advice that if it were actually followed and like kind of utilized on them, they wouldn't be into it. But it's just this really bizarre thing. We have another friend, Jasper and I both, a girl named Kara, who's also a dating coach in Miami. And she's great as well. She's able to just like see it perfectly, give amazing advice, go out with guys, have fun. It's really cool.
Sorry for interrupting, but I just wanted to add something to that. When I'm with my male friends, and there's a girl that they like one of my female friends, I won't do what most girls do. I won't go, oh, he's a really nice guy, you should talk to him. I say stay away from him. I say he's bad news. That's what I say. And it's reverse psychology. So a lot of females will actually do the opposite. Say, he's a really nice guy. And it's like, no, you do not market your friend that way at all.
That's awesome.
That's very funny. I was wondering, Kezia, when you first started, what was the main problems that you saw with the guys that you helped?
Same problems as I see now. They don't change things have got slightly more into the online dating world than when I started. So a lot more of my clients come to me, ask me to fix their online dating profiles and how to Facebook a girl and etc. But it's generally the same things. I believe that most guys fall apart like a cheap suit in the transition points of an interaction. You have the introduction, you have the comfort stage, you have the seduction stage. They're pretty easy, actually. It's the transition points. It's taking it from the opener to sustaining that initial impact, having a full-blown conversation where she's completely connected with you. You have her total undivided attention and focus. And that leap is often where guys just fell. running out of things to say, conversation fizzling out, unable to keep the initial impact going. And then there's a second transition point. So once you've made that connection with the girl and you've got her full attention, the question is, do you want to get friends locked? There's friend zoned and there's friends locked, okay? And the longer you stay in that comfort stage, the more comfortable you get, hence why it's called the comfort stage, and you get locked into that unless you transition. But most guys don't know how to transition. Once it's on and they're flirting and the girl's flirting back, the seduction part's pretty easy because they have that confidence to fall back on. They're like, yeah, it's going to happen. But it's honestly nearly everything in game, nearly all the problems are lying within those two transition points.
So it's interesting that you say that, because I do believe that this is what a lot of guys have problems with. They start the conversation with the girl and it just kind of fizzles out slowly. It doesn't really go anywhere, and you can already tell by just watching that it's gonna at some point just stop. So what's the best way to make that transition? What's the best way to move from that sort of boring conversation to add more of an edge to it, and to actually move forward with the interaction?
Oh, there's a multitude of ways. We could be here all day talking about this because this is actually my favourite subject. I would say the first thing that guys have to remember is that the woman is going to easily fall into autopilot mode. Okay, if you start asking the same generic questions that everyone else asks, she's going to treat you as one of those guys that failed in the past. She's going to put you in the same category. So I say to guys often, what bores you? What if you say that you're from Miami, or if you say that you're from India or Italy or wherever you're from, what do people generally say to you in response to that answer? And what sends you into a coma? And they tell me, and they think, okay, fine. How many times have you used those exact same boring, unimaginative, uninspiring questions on the women that you're speaking to? Most of them say, like, yeah, all the time. Because what's happening is lazy. The guy gets lazy. He's lazy, and at the same time, he's under stress. It's kind of strange because he's stressed out. So what happens is we go to what we know. We go to what we're familiar with. We can't be creative, and we can't remember the advice when we're stressed out. It's impossible to be creative and to remember. So what we do is we're lazy and we go to what's familiar, and we start having that polite chit chat, which is, as Americans call it, small talk. It is in actual fact polite detachment. Okay, you're politely detaching yourself from the person. So I always say to guys, always be aware of her autopilot response mode, okay? Are you just sending out useless junk mail to her? Or are your questions inspiring her? Are your anecdotes inspiring her? When you ask a thoughtful question to someone, something which is a little bit different to what everyone else is asking, it inspires a person and it makes them interested in you. By asking a fantastic question, you actually market yourself as an interesting person. So it's not just about having an interesting conversation, you're marketing yourself as an interesting person. Most people are interesting people. They just market themselves really, really badly. So men have to be extremely aware of what questions they're asking the girls. They have to look at it as they have a certain amount of lifelines, a certain amount of questions that they can ask. Are you going to waste them with the same boring, generic shit that everyone else asks? Or are you going to inspire? This keeps adding fuel to the conversation, valuable fuel. And what you need to do is extract as many high caliber hooks as possible. I say high caliber hooks, meaning you want to get information out of her, which is not, let me give an example. You ask her what she does for a living, and she tells you that she's, a teacher. And rather than saying, how long have you been doing it for, or how did you get into that, which is my personal one that I can't stand, you can say to her, what do you need in order to be amazing at what you do? Just that creates that hairline shift in her perception of you. And what it does on a second level is you extract high caliber hooks. So she might say, you've got to be responsible and you've got to be hardworking. But she's already just told two things about herself. She's revealed two things about herself. And from those hooks, you can add multiple threads. You can take the conversation away from, being a teacher and talking about our jobs to something completely different. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that I think that's great advice. And again, like, I mean, especially when I was an attorney, when I was a practicing attorney, I should say, I was going to all these networking events, and you have this unending stream of uninteresting, extremely boring questions being fired back and forth, and they are lazy. I completely agree. In addition to, I think that's amazing advice to have these particularly well calibrated questions that evoke a bit more interesting answers and give you some more information. And another thing we always talk about as well is the concept of spikes, or at least this is the vernacular that we use, but throwing out other things, showcasing your sense of humor, being, finding interesting things to offer back. Because again, when you do ask these questions, you're asking for something. You're asking for something to be given to you. So another way to ramp up the interaction and make it a bit more interesting is to throw out something yourself. But yeah, I think that's excellent. So when somebody's having an interaction, and let's get to the cool guy topic here. So now we have somebody you're talking to, a guy, and he is engaging. He is kind of interesting. He stands out a little bit. This girl's like, okay, this is a cool guy. I like talking to this guy. Mm-hmm. What does that mean to you? Or what elements make, how does that process of it, how does that actually trigger in somebody's brain?
A cool guy. Okay. I usually call him the great guy. He's the guy that you want to hang around with, you enjoy being with, you get excited when he calls you, you get excited when you see his text messages. He's usually an alpha guy. Alpha, by the way, doesn't mean an introvert or an extrovert, and it doesn't mean he has to be successful either. I find that a cool guy, a great guy, is totally unapologetic about who he is, the decisions he's made, and where he's going. He's not needy, he's busy, he's got a busy social life, and even if the ones don't always have like a load of friends, then they have limited time. Now that could be limited time to their job, it could be limited time to their hobbies, their interests, whatever it is. It's about not having that available time and to always making themselves always available for the girl, because then she doesn't appreciate it as much. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
I think these are the main elements to that cool, great guy that you want to hang around with all the time. I don't necessarily think, oh, he's funny, because I have guys that I know who are like amazing, amazing guys, and some of them are just not funny. Even though humor is important to me, I get something else from them. So you have to look at what are you providing? What service are you providing? Are you just like taking? Are you like an emotional vampire, or are you giving? And it doesn't mean being needy, if that makes sense.
It makes sense. I have one follow-up question.
Mm-hmm.
What I always wonder about, you see a lot of guys who are extremely successful in various aspects of life, whether it's their business or it's on other aspects, but then they're very insecure and don't have a lot of confidence when it comes to relationships and dating, or even just talking to a girl.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like a weird disconnect, because even guys who have a lot of stuff going on in their lives can have these problems. So can you comment on that, and what are your thoughts on that?
I don't think it's a weird disconnect. I think that what happens, a lot of guys, they work on their careers and they think, if I'm successful and I have that nice car and I tick all the boxes of what society expects from me, then I'll get the woman of my dreams. Now, if you have a lot of money and you have like a Lamborghini, you can attract certain types of women, but I think most guys, especially the ones that come to me, they're not interested in attracting champagne flies. They want a woman who actually likes them for them, who they are, rather than what they can provide. So a lot of guys get caught up in, okay, I have to be successful. There's nothing wrong in being successful. It's an attractive quality, but it's not the attraction formula. There's a big difference between having an attractive quality and having the attraction formula. Example, a beautiful woman. It's attractive. It's an extra feather in her cap. But a lot of beautiful women out there, very, very lonely, very, very confused. I'm beautiful. I'm this, I'm that. I go to the gym. I look after my body. I've got beautiful long blonde hair. I spend thousands of dollars to look like this. Why do I not have a man? They're thinking this. And millions of these women, they don't understand it because it's just an attractive quality. It's not the formula. So I have a lot of clients and they're like working on Wall Street, extremely successful. Like, why can't I get women? And the reason is, well, now not only that, why I can't get women, but why is that jerk over there who's got no job, no money, getting all these hot women? Well, what am I doing wrong and what is he doing right? Because being alpha and being confident and being sexy to women is not about what you have. It's about how you feel about what you have and where you're going. A lot of women can pick up on a man who's successful, that he's only doing it for one reason. He's not doing it for himself. He's doing it because he wants to get women. Whereas there's a guy who might be just playing video games all day and he's totally unapologetic for it. He's made his decision to be a bum. He's made a decision to not be successful. He's not really career focused. He's totally unapologetic for that. That's actually very, very attractive. And I can tell you from my experience, I've been out with successful men, extremely successful men, like multi-billionaires. And I've also been out with guys who are going nowhere in life, or what society deems as a failure, so to speak. And they both have something in common. Even though they look inconsistent from the outside, they both have something in common, which is they're totally unapologetic for what their decisions as a man in their lives.
So it's kind of like, essentially, it's a self-assuredness in a lot of ways, confidence. Now, I don't know if do you also work with guys on, I assume you must, but you also work with guys in areas of body language and conveying confidence non-verbally?
Yes, I do. Non-verbal communication.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. And I mean, that's another way where when you're talking about this, see, it's interesting because I saw this too all the time. You see this especially in law. I noticed this weird phenomenon where guys go to law school and then they get these coveted, they get into big law and they get these coveted big law jobs. And then they think that it's supposed to switch instantaneously. And then now I've got my career in the correct position and everything else is going to follow. But what happens is exactly like you said, maybe it's coming for the wrong reasons, but really what's happening is it hasn't actually shifted the inner beliefs, inner game, whatever you want to call it. It hasn't actually solidified their confidence. Maybe in some rare cases it does. And when that component is missing, right, it's irrelevant. I wanted to quickly shift the conversation in another direction, which is related, but it has to do with this issue of, and a lot of quote-unquote financially or career-wise successful guys deal with this, is the issue of being too nice. I know me and Jasper had this problem as well prior to our introduction to love systems and this material knowledge, where you be overly accommodating, overly nice. And there's a great book which I highly recommend to everybody. I've talked about it before on the show, No More Mr. Nice Guy. It's a really cool book, and it's all about this. Kezia, can you tell us, first of all, what does it mean to be too nice? Because again, sometimes people get this mixed up. They think you have to be a jerk, and that's not what we're saying. So what does it mean to be too nice, and why is and Kezia's got an awesome video on this, by the way, which I saw, which is the reason why I wanted to chat with her about it. What does it mean to be too nice, and why is it essentially a turnoff?
Okay, so being nice doesn't mean being the great guy. It doesn't mean being polite. It doesn't mean being too thoughtful, too kind, too sincere. These are all fantastic qualities which women look for in a man. Being nice is bland, forgettable, and replaceable. It's if you go and see a movie and I say, was it good? You go, yeah, it was a nice movie. I know that it wasn't shit and it wasn't good. It just made zero impact on you. If you go and have a meal and I go, how was the meal? It was nice. You can't even be bothered to find a word in the dictionary that describes it with a little bit more detail. That means it made zero impact, okay? So every time someone says that guy was nice, he's a nice guy, it's the same as when they say it was a nice day, it was a nice movie, it was pleasant. It means there's no impact. I can't even be bothered to explore a different word to sum up this experience. That sounds really, really harsh. It's incredibly important that guys do not think that being nice means, being polite and being friendly and being concerned and having manners. These are great qualities, okay? Nice means no impact. I've never heard a woman say, he was so nice I had to sleep with him. But I have heard, I just couldn't resist it. So nice. But I have heard women say, he was amazing. He inspired me. He was like, he spoke to me like no one else has ever spoken to me. And I've heard women also say, oh, he was such a bastard and I hate him so much. And I ended up sleeping with him. It's these two extremes because they evoke passion, whereas the nice guy doesn't.
Right. Okay, wait. Just all the listeners out there, if anybody has ever heard a girl say, oh my God, he was just so nice, I had to sleep with him, just out of curiosity, because that's pretty darn hilarious. I'd love to hear it. I doubt we get anybody right here.
Anyone that rings you up and tells you that is lying.
The notion of somebody actually saying that is so funny to me. I've never heard somebody, and you said it in that nice British accent, which makes it even more hilarious. Okay, so how do you basically, when you're talking about, and again, I think you made some great distinctions. So what do you do when you're working with guys who are just, they have this, okay, let me give you an example. Back in the day, I've had to learn this and it takes time to do it, and it takes practice really more than anything, getting comfortable with being a bit more assertive and whatnot. But I had a girlfriend when I was 24, a girl named Samantha, and I was crazy about her. And in my mind, I said, okay, I want to potentially marry this girl. I'm crazy about her. I'll do anything. And in my mind, the way to secure the relationship is funny to me now, but the way to secure the relationship was to literally do everything that she wanted to do. When we were going out to dinner, it was, where do you want to go, baby? When we were going out to a club or doing something, it was always, whatever you want to do, sweetie, whatever, let me get you a and of course there were things along the way, a lot of maybe nice gestures that are certainly fine to be romantic and to be thoughtful, but it went way too far. So if you have somebody that comes to you and is in this particular predicament like I was, what do you do? How do you work with them?
Okay. Well, first of all, there's a couple of things that you said. One that stood out was, where do you want to go, baby? And, where do you want to go? It's all putting so much emphasis on her desires. And what happens is, like any human being, we become complacent about it. We don't value that person as much and what they do. So if I sent you a gift every single day, just a random gift, at first you'd be like, wow, it's amazing. And in the end, one day I didn't send you the gift, you probably wouldn't ring me up to see if I'm well, if I'm okay. You'd just be like, where's my gift? Right? So I always say to guys, be a man with a plan, and always show her that you're the leader. That doesn't mean being like some old tyrant or anything like that, but women are attracted to men who, a man with a plan, as I said, a man that can take lead. It's nice to sometimes say to the girl, you know what, you decide tonight. I can't be bothered. You decide. But on the whole, it should be the man saying to a woman, do you like Italian? And that's all he needs to ask. And then sorts out the restaurant if he wants to take her on a date. That's all he needs to ask. Another thing for guys who do what you do, Mr. Nice Guys, is they often stop being sexual with the girl. They might sexually desire her, but it becomes less sexual, the relationship, and it becomes more like the girl's handbag, the girl's lapdog. And I always say to guys, make sure that you're still sustaining that sexual attraction. And you can't do it if you're being needy and you're being a people pleaser. You cannot do it simultaneously. It doesn't work. So your situation is slightly different because you're in a relationship. But I say to guys who are coming across a bit too nice on dates, for instance, and they haven't established a relationship yet, is that just by talking to the girl normally over dinner and then suddenly whispering to her and saying, I can't wait to fuck you later, and then going back and say, okay, can you pass me the red wine, please? I think that can be very, very powerful because you're showing a multi-dimensional personality, which a nice guy often doesn't. So you can be polite, you can play this whole game, but there's this real sexual side to you, and it's quite dominant. That contrast can really, really salvage a relationship, and it can salvage a date when the girl's thinking he's a bit too nice.
All right, I'm definitely going to try that on my next date.
But when you do it, you have to do it with watertight confidence. If you do it like you're half sure, you're half-hearted about it, it will backfire. If you want to be sexually direct, whether it's sexually direct in the introduction or sexually direct halfway through the interaction, it always must be done with watertight confidence. And, you have to be prepared for failure. Preparation for failure is actually something very powerful, because if the girl says back to you, what the fuck did you just say? If you're not prepared for that and you don't know how to respond, it's game over. If you turn around and say, you heard exactly what I said, or if you turn around and say, something, we're obviously not on the same page. I thought you were on a different page. Let's just have our dinner and that's it, and be friends. By actually using reverse psychology, you can actually flip the whole situation, that whole one negative moment, and turn it into a positive one. It's called preparation for failure, which is something I teach, which is very, very unfashionable in this day and age. Everyone just talks about how you can't even anticipate failure, but actually being prepared for failure is something that can really, really help you immensely.
And I think you mentioned an important point, because I think the most important thing when you get a reaction like that is to not to be emotionally affected, and that's what I see a lot of with our students, is that as soon as the girl says something that they don't expect, they immediately go into shock, into panic mode, and they go like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it this way."
Because they're unprepared.
Right.
They're prepared. If someone says something to you that's not part of the script, it's not what you expected, and you're unprepared for it, then you're going to be like a lost little child, or where do I go now? Which direction do I turn? If you're prepared, like I am. So, for instance, when I do public speaking, right? I get hecklers. I get someone who wants to be, a lot more clever than me, who wants to make a point. And they've been, they've been thinking about this for months. I'm going to make this point and it's going to kind of disrupt her talk. I'm prepared for everything that people are going to say. I have that witty soundbite. I have that witty comeback line now up my sleeve. And I can just throw it out there and I can win over a whole room. I can win over that person. I don't neutralize, I capitalize on it. And that's what I teach my students. And it makes you so confident. It reinforces your confidence, because you're not going to be stuck in that situation with no exit.
A good example of this, let's say earlier on in an interaction when you first meet somebody, Jasper actually and I always talk about this, and it's so powerful when you get a reaction that's unexpected. It's not a bad thing. It is actually an opportunity for great things to happen. For example, if you go in and you're chatting with a girl in the first, let's say, few minutes, and you go in to kiss her, a lot of guys worry, all right, that, well, if I go in too soon, she's not going to like it, and it's going to blow up the interaction, which is completely false. In fact, it's a win-win situation, and here's why. And this is all, again, talking about what Kezia is just mentioning, being prepared and knowing how to respond or react. And if, let's say, she does turn and be like, "Whoa, what are you doing? I just started talking to you. Why are you trying to kiss me?" Now, if you, again, go in apologetically and in the shock panic mode, and they're like, "Oh, I'm really sorry. I thought you were into it, and I didn't know, and I kind of went for it, but that was really weird, and I'm sorry. Can we rewind?" Boom, you're knocked out of the water. You will get blown out of the water. If instead you'd be like, "Yo, what do you want from me? You're smoking hot. Of course I'm going to try and kiss you." Anyway, and boom, you're emotionally calm. You feel good, and guess what? You're not in the same position that you were. You're not in a worse position than you were. You were in a heightened position. And that gives you an opportunity to flex those muscles and show that rock-solid confidence, self-assuredness, and boom. So I just really want to emphasize that it is really a win-win situation. It is an opportunity to move the interaction forward.
Absolutely. I mean, that's exactly the school of thought that I'm from. Don't neutralize it, capitalize on it.
No, I like that. Don't neutralize, capitalize. So listen, Kezia, I know you have an incredibly busy schedule. What time is it right now in the UK? It's early here in LA.
It's 5:40 in the afternoon.
Okay, all right. Well, I know you've got an incredibly busy schedule. We've already taken up a good chunk of your time. Thank you so much for joining us. It was really fun to chat with you. I'm going to work on my British accent. I don't feel comfortable busting it out right now because yours is just so proper and solid. But another time, I'll work on it. How can people, if they want to get in touch with you, check out your book, check out your YouTube videos? How can they do that?
Okay, just go to the website www.kezia-noble.com. I'm sure you'll be kind enough to provide a link.
Yes,
for your
of course.
You can find out about my products, my DVDs. I have DVDs focusing on all areas of game, and so that's ebooks and DVDs. I also run courses in LA and in London and Europe sometimes. You can check those out. Regularly updated blog. My YouTube channel, which is, I don't even know what it is. I swear I don't know.
Don't worry. I'll look it up and I'll post it. It's all good.
Yeah, just put Kezia Noble into YouTube and you'll find me talking about something there. And that's it. Just check it out. Have a look around the website. If there's something you like, go get it. If you don't like it, log off.
There it is. See, the straightforwardness, honesty rings through. Excellent. All right, so guys, thank you so much for tuning in. You can check out new episodes every Monday. And also, if you want to check out those awesome show notes, go to www.lovesystems.com/podcast. Jasper, thank you for being on today. Kezia, thank you for being on. This was super fun. Guys, we'll see you next time. Peace.
Love systems, love